Alrighty, guys. So welcome. This is going to be the Introduction to Objection Handling Masterclass. So in this video, I'm going to be giving you pretty much almost every single objection that you're going to get and exactly how to handle that. Now, just a disclaimer before I get any of you guys commenting, well, this wouldn't work for my industry, or, this wouldn't work for B2B. You got to understand this is something where it's just a guide. I'm not telling you to do something specific, but this is an overall framework which I have seen work in the past for B2B. If you want me to give you an example for a specific industry that you're in, feel free to comment below. So let's get into it. All right. So number one, the thing that I want to preface this video with is the best objection handling is great discovery. Obviously objection handling is all cool and all. I'm sure, if you're on TikTok or Instagram Reels on the sales side of things, you're seeing all these videos of these guys. Here's how to handle this objection. Here's how to handle this objection. While that's great to have in your tool bag, objection handling is something that should be last minute. And it should just be something when it pops up. You should not have to rely on objection handling. You should rely on having a great discovery. The easiest way to close more deals is ultimately just to eliminate objections before you ever get to the close. Obviously, that is easier said than done. So today I'm going to break down exactly how I would handle specific objections. So, when you're in the discovery, number one, you got to get the real pain points. You got to push into their frustrations until they actually feel it. You got to find the gap. So you got to clarify, where they are right now versus where they want to go. And then lastly, you want to show consequences. So you got to want to ask actually what happens specifically if they don't make a decision and if they stay stuck. So if you do that, most objections actually vanish before you even pitch. And then, what I want to preface this before is every single objection that you get is a smokescreen. All objections, obviously, they're really just boiling down to uncertainty. And the best way to remove uncertainty is to have the best discovery phase possible. If you're still getting objections by then, it means that something was missed. But, not every call is going to go as planned. So use this playbook to address this. And then, just to preface before getting into the objections, typically as a closer, this is what I like to do. This is what I call the looping strategy. Okay. So after every single pitch, you want to run a temperature check. So you want to figure out where the prospect falls between a 1 or a 10. 1 being, they absolutely hate the pitch, or 10, they absolutely love it and they're ready to get started. Never, ever, ever for a close until the prospect is an actual 10 out of 10. If they're a 9, 8, or 7, very simple. You just got to loop back, figure out what's missing, isolate that, handle it, and then push them towards a 10. But like I said, you never want to go for the close. You never want to, ask for a deposit. You never want to ask for a down payment, ask for a contract to be signed until you know for a fact they are a 10. If, you're going for a close when a person's a 7, you're just never going to close them. They're just going to give you a bunch of different objections. So you always want to keep looping back, figure out exactly what is missing that is going to get them to a 10. Also, what you want to do is if a prospect says they're a 10 out of 10, you have to hear it in their voice. So a lot of times, a prospect is just going to say, yeah, I'm a 10 out of 10. That doesn't sound very sure. So, in that case, obviously use some brain cells and realize that they're bullshitting you. And you just got to call them out in a light way. So for example, hey, I really appreciate that, but let's be honest, Jeff, it doesn't really sound like you're a 10 out of 10. Was there something that I missed? This just disarms them you'll be able to surface the real objection, which ultimately keeps you in control. So that's the biggest thing. Really what you want to do is you always want to make sure that they are a 10 out of 10 before you go for the close. Alrighty, so the power of looping. Like I was saying, you should never go for a close until you know for a fact that they are ready. So one of the biggest mistakes that most closers make is just trying to force the close too early. And if you attempt to close the prospect before they are completely sold, you are either going to push them away with pressure, or you're going to get a less yes that turns into a cancellation, a refund, a no-show, or another. So really, this is for closers, but you can apply the same thing for an appointment setter. You don't want to be asking to book an appointment until you fully know that this is something that they want to do. The truth is, you never ask for the close until they're absolutely certain. So you want to think of certainty as three main pillars. The product and service. Do they fully believe that this solves their problem? The company. So do they trust you to actually deliver the product or service? And then number three, themselves. Do they actually believe that they can use this and succeed? If any of these is below a 10, these sales fragile. So what you want to do is you want to go to the certainty scale question. Before you attempt to close, you always got to ask, hey, on a range of from 1 to 10, 1 being, you want to hang up the phone and never talk to me again, or 10 being you're ready to get this started today, where would you say you are? Now, this simple question, all it really does is it forces the prospect to self-reveal their true level of identity. So essentially, what looping is the art of circling back when a prospect is not a 10 out of 10. Instead of just pushing harder, you step back, reframe, and add more certainty in whichever pillar is weak. For example, let's say the prospect says, I'm not sure if I have time. Instead of pushing for the close, you just loop back, re-explain, address that objection, explain how the program is designed for busy people, share a story of someone just like them who succeeded, ask, hey, if time wasn't an issue, would this be something you'd be willing to move forward with? So that's essentially what you want to do. But going back on this, you would want to isolate the objection first, ask them, hey, if time was an issue, would this be something that you want to move forward with? If they say yes, okay, cool. This is the only objection. Then explain how the program is designed for busy people, share a story of someone just like them who succeeded, yada, yada. So, it kind of depends on what you're selling. In this case, it could be B2B consulting. It could be a software. Sometimes people don't have time to implement new softwares, things like that. But your job as a closer is to diagnose which pillar is weak. You got to loop into stories, proof, and questions that actually rebuild certainty within the prospect. And you want to use the certainty scale to gauge exactly where they are exactly, and then keep looping until they're nodding, agreeing, and emotionally bought in, and there are a 10 out of 10 on the product. Okay. So that is looping. That is just a preface. And right now we are going to get into the actual objection handling frameworks. Okay. So objection number one, and it's not really, a complete objection. This is more if a prospect is refusing transparency. This is if a prospect refuses to talk numbers or just be transparent with you. It's financial. It's just fear of making the wrong move. So your frame is very simple. Hey, Mark, totally fair. And just to clarify, when you say it's not financial, what specifically is holding you back from moving forward? Is it timing, confidence in the system, or something else? So the goal here is not to argue. It's to smoke out the real objection, which could be trust, risk, authority, or internal alignment. Alrighty. So objection number 2 is going to be the partner or business partner objection. Typically with B2B sales, hopefully you're getting a lot more, business partner objections rather than, you really don't want to work with, some pussy who's saying, oh, I got to talk to my wife, because that's, probably someone you don't want to do business with. Anyways, so we've all gotten to this point where, we thought everything was good. And then someone said, oh, I need to talk to my wife, or, oh, I need to talk to my business partner. Well, number one, obviously, you should always make sure that all decision makers are on the call. But this guide, I'm going to show you really what happens if you do not have that business partner on this call. So, number one, with every single objection, you want to isolate and tie it down. So you got to ask, hey, aside from talking to your partner, is there anything else keeping you from feeling just 100% certain that this is what you want to do? And then next question, let's say your partner was here and said, I trust your calmness. Would you be ready to move forward? What this does is you're isolating and tying down that this is the only objection. Step number two is you want to figure out if this is respect or if they need your permission to make decisions. So it's like, hey, Mark, got it. And just to clarify, is that more of a respect thing that you're planning to move forward, but just want to loop them in? Or do you actually need their approval before making decisions like this? So if it is a respect thing, what you want to do is you want to go into, maybe a deposit or a conditional close. If it's a permission thing, then, you can obviously schedule a joint call or collect cash on hand, or, collect credit card hold or something like that. Then, step number three, you want to get into the information gathering stage. You want to figure out how are decisions typically made between the two. What do you think they'll say when they hear the investment? Do you think they'd see the ROI in fixing this problem? Are you both aligned that this is the problem right now? What is their biggest focus in the business right now? Growth, cost cutting, or stability? Okay. Step number four, what you want to do is you want to clarify and contrast. So you want to bring it up very, very subtly. Look, option number one, it's, hey, I spoke to a consultant today. They want 10K. What do you think? Option number two, it's, hey, we've been talking about scaling our sales teams for months. I finally found the right partner to fix this. I just wanted to loop you in before we roll. Which version of that do you think gets more buy-in? And then from there, you go into deposit and follow-up close. Hey, here's what we'll do. We'll put a small refundable deposit down to hold your spot. That way you're showing commitment, but you still have space to loop your partner in. If after the combo you're totally against it, hey man, no worries, we'll refund it. When do you think you'll talk to him? And then go from there. Alrighty, so objection number three is going to be, hey, I need to think about it. We've all gotten to that point where you think you're a 10 out of 10 on the discovery, you think the prospect is a 10 out of 10, and they hit you with this, and you completely freeze up. Very, very simple. Really, what you want to do is you want to stall by lowering the sales resistance, clarify what they mean, and then re-enter with a solution to the real objection. So, the last thing that you want to do if a prospect says, hey man, it sounds good, I just want to think about it. It's like, well, what do you need to think about? That's the last thing that you want to do. You really just want to lower sales resistance, because especially after you drop price, people are going to have super high sales resistance. So you just want to make it as lighthearted as possible. So number one, lower resistance. Hey man, 100% makes sense. This is a real decision, and I wouldn't expect you to just jump in without thinking. How much time do you think you'll need? Maybe they say 2 days. It's like, okay, cool. Now clarify. Perfect. Yeah, we can definitely talk on Wednesday. Just so I know what to have ready for you by then. I guess, what exactly are you wanting to think through? And then what this does is this to reveal the real objection. It could be pricing, it could be trust, it could be timing, it could be confidence, or it could be partner. And then essentially what you want to do is you want to go back to all these objections: the money objection, the partner objection, timing objection, confidence objection on this playbook. But before, what you want to do is you always want to isolate the objection. So it's like, hey, got it. So for example, let's say if the prospect says it's a money objection. It's like, hey, got it. Well, let me ask you this. If it was completely free, would you do it? And they say yes, yada, yada. Okay, why? What you want to do is isolate the money, because you want to make sure it's only an objection. You want to make sure that it's not an uncertainty in the product objection. So it's like, hey, money aside, if this was completely free, would you do it? Have them explain, and then always ask why. Get the prospect to sell themselves, and then go into figuring out the money. Same thing with the partner, same thing with timing, same thing with confidence. All you want to do, isolate the objection, make sure that's the only thing holding them back. Figure out if they actually believe that this product, software, or service can work for them. Figure out why that is, get the prospect to sell, and then go into pitching them. Alrighty, objection number 4 is going to be your competition. It's been a long day. Your competitors are cheaper. So really with this, a lot of people say, oh, well, it's supposed to be $50,000. We have X, Y, and Z, yada, yada, yada. And really all that does is you're selling and you're pushing a product, and you're really just raising the prospect's sales resistance. Really what you want to do is you just want to ask some questions. So step 1, you want to acknowledge it. Hey man, totally get it. And honestly, between me, you, and the fence pole, I like saving money when it. Step number 2 is you want to level the playing field. Hey Mark, if we were the same price as them, who would you rather work with, us or them? So you want to isolate this, figure out who they would rather work with. If they say you, okay, gotcha. I guess why so? And then what does is you want the prospect to actually sell themselves. Maybe they say, oh, well, I actually like this product a lot more because it has X, Y, and Z. It can really solve this issue. And then, step 3, you go into anchoring value over price. Hey man, got it. I guess, would you rather go with the cheaper option or the one that actually solves the problem for good? What this does is the specific price. And then step 4, you want to go into a past experience. Hey Jeff, I guess, when's the last time that you paid a little bit more for something that was better? Maybe software, maybe an employee, hell, maybe even going on first class. Did you regret it? They're going to say, hell no, dude. I got hammered off, 6 shots of tequila flying first class. It's like, okay, yeah, exactly. It's the same here. And then from there, you go in and close. Hey, Jeff, are you looking for the cheapest option or the one that actually fixes your bottleneck? And then from there, perfect. Let's get started and go and close them. Alrighty. For this one, you're probably not going to see a lot of this in B2B, but there's one sales team that I trained that was in B2B that actually had this happen a lot. And this is the I am scared or I'm just not sure this is going to work for me objection. The goal here is really just to rebuild confidence in themselves and the process before actually talking numbers. So very simple. Step 1, hey man, I hear you. Let's put the investment aside for a second. Do you believe the system can actually fix the specific bottleneck in your business? Wait for the yes. And then, as always, get them to sell themselves. Okay, why do you believe that we can help you out? Get them to explain and then pivot. Cool. So, is this that you don't have the cash flow available, or is it that it just feels uncomfortable committing to it right now? Now, if the prospect says it's uncomfortable, you want to agree with them. Hey man, makes sense. And look, It's completely normal to feel that way when you're betting on growth. I guess, have you made an investment like this before? If they say no, it's like, hey, whereas trying to figure this out internally gotten you so far. So really what you want to do is you're just having them explain that what they're doing right now is not working. And then you want to figure out, hey, if nothing changes in 6 months, what does this mean for you in your business? And then from there, hey man, if you had the right systems and accountability, where could the business be instead? So you want to figure out and isolate the fact that whatever they're doing right now is clearly not working. Get the consequence question, asking them if nothing changes in 6 to 12 months, what does this mean for your business? And then sell them, hey, if you had the right, and then you can insert whatever industry you're in, hey, and if you had the right software, where could this business be instead? From there, let me ask you this, Jeff. What feels more uncomfortable, staying where you are right now or committing to the fix that actually gets you out of it? What that is doing is that's breaking their current mindset. And then from there, what decision do you need to make today to feel like you're leading your business forward, not just maintaining it? Okay, so that's a little bit of a different one, because what you got to do is it's more like you got to reframe their mind into actually thinking less, of a just being a pussy. That's essentially how you handle the I am scared or this is an uncomfortable investment. Alrighty, so that is it for today's objection handling masterclass. Like I said, I'm sure there's more objections that you guys are getting, but in reality, all objections are they're just smoke screens. They always come down to uncertainty. It's always uncertainty in the product, uncertainty in the company, and uncertainty in themselves. So really what you want to do is always isolate it, figure that out, handle the objection, and go in for the close. But like I said multiple times in this video, objection handling is cool. You should obviously learn that. But the better skill to learn, this isn't an if or, you should know both obviously. But having a great discovery is obviously the best objection handling. And you always want to make sure that you're looping, never asking for a close until they are a 10 or 10, and until they're actually certain that this is something that they want to do. But if you have struggles with that, make sure you watch this video, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks, guys.